Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the 16 millimeter film crew. I'm Cindy.
And I'm Dale.
You can watch us on YouTube. You can like and comment on our YouTube videos and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can listen to us everywhere podcasts are found at 16 millimeter film crew podcast. And you can visit us on our website at www.16millimeterfilmcrew.com. This week, we watched Wolves, directed by John Watts. Hired to cover up a high-profile crime, a fixer soon finds his night spiraling out of control when he is forced to work with an unexpected counterpart. This movie stars Brad Pitt as Pam's man, George Clooney as Margaret's man, Amy Ryan as Margaret, Austin Abrams, and also Frances McDormand as Pam. So, yeah, what are your thoughts on this film?
I like it. I mean, let's be honest. It's whenever, you get Clooney and Pitt in a movie, it's gonna be magic. Like somehow, like when they did the Ocean's 8, they hit upon a formula that worked for them wonderfully. And this movie very much gives me uh what's the name of the Kiss Kiss Bang Bang with Robert Downey Jr. and stuff like that. And also what's the movie with Ryan Gosling and
Oh, The Nice Guys.
Nice Guys. So it gives me like Kiss Kiss Bang Bang Nice Guys vibes. Two guys are kind of in the same field but are polar opposites in a way. Working together very like it's in that buddy cop vein of movies. But yeah, but they're for some reason their comedic timing and their back and forth banter, like it's a formula for them that's always worked and it continues to work in this movie.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun watching this movie. And I do agree. I think that Brad Pitt and George Clooney, their friendship has launched so many movies and like it does work every time. Like they have really great chemistry. They're also just really funny and are just charming, charismatic. Like they always bring that kind of star energy, but also just that like we are actually friends in real life. So that kind of rolls over to the roles they play when they're acting together. So that was nice. And I also like the approach to this movie more as not really being so like action heavy in terms of like we have these two leading men doing all the fighting and stuff, but like that the fact that they are older, they don't try to like disguise that. And it's like, yes, like these two old men are like take pop an Advil because they can't like they can't do what they used to do back in the day. Um and that Austin Abrams, who is from Euphoria, but like he's such a good actor. He kind of gets to take the more actiony role or like
Com-
the
Comedic
front
role.
supported.
Yeah.
Yeah. The front, not like a leading man in terms of like how we know it, but just like he is very like involved in what's happening. And that you're not just having like a bunch of action scenes, but like that the set pieces that they do give you are really good. And that you don't have to like watch tired old tropes that you've seen like a billion times. I think that it's nice that they chose to do something different with it.
Yeah. Yeah, this genre of what like buddy cop slash, we're not even just that, like now these you see a lot of these assassination or hitman movies kind of working. Of course you have Hitman's Bodyguard with Ryan Reynolds and um you haven't seen that one? But it's kind of that same vein. I mean, you got, of course, I mentioned Kiss Kiss Bang Bang Nights, guys. Like I see a lot of they're taking this concept of the John Wick-esque assassin world and coming up with a bunch of different stories. Like even the killer kind of follows this same kind of format where they're like in a secret organization in a way, and they're like nobody really knows who the other killers are. And it ends kind of the same way where, Michael Fassbender's character is now being the one being hunted by his organization, whereas in the end of this movie they find out, oh, the person we work for is trying to kill us both. And it kind of does the whole freeze frame kind of thing as they're having their shootout kind of thing.
Yeah. It weirdly reminded me of Mr. and Mr. Smith, but it's like a satirical version of that, which is like there's no one on earth who can do what I do, and then there's like a person right next to you who does exactly what you can do. So
Yeah.
it's not like you're not special. Um, and that the agencies are actually out for them, and they're trying to like clean them. So they're sending them on this like wild goose chase fantasy, like there's not actually a crime happening, or like there are crimes happening, but it has nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
Um, I thought that that was like, yeah, it felt very much like breaking the fourth wall without actually having to do that. Um, not only in terms of like, I guess their personas as like action men, like action leading men, but also like the movies that they have done together. It felt very much like a wink, wink to camera of like,
Mhm.
yeah, we know that we've done this before. We've been through this before, but here's what you didn't see coming. Like I don't know. And I just like that. It was really funny.
Mhm.
Like everything that happened in there was just like, what is going on, guys? Like you have this kid running through the streets of New York during a snowstorm in
This
underwear
tidy
and socks.
whities. Just
Like,
uh,
sir, you can't do that. Like,
yeah.
it was ridiculous. My favorite scene was when they were in that like nasty hotel, and he was like, "I just feel like I'm gonna get syphilis by standing in here." I was like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah." The New York roaches and the New York rats. Like,
Rats.
this is their city, so
Yeah. It's their city. We just live in it. Like
we just live in it.
did that whole chase sequence with him was hilarious. Like the part where he jumps try to jump over George Clooney's car and he turns into a flip. Like that whole sequence was hilarious because I'm like, oh, he's gonna land on his back and it's a wrap. But no, they kept it going. Like it's a really fun, light-hearted movie. And it's to me like the fact that it's more comedic with its timing and it's still very action oriented in a way. Like it's
Mhm.
a very good balance of both. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't go over to the point where it's like what's this movie? I know I'm referencing a lot of movies because that's what movie reminds me a
Yeah.
lot. Like there was a movie a couple years ago with Jack Nicholson and Morgan Freeman where they're just like old dudes like knocking off a bucket list where the movie goes it's so
On
comedic
the
and
bucket list?
yeah, I think it's called the bucket list, but they're old and they're trying to do their bucket list before they die. And
Hmm.
the movie goes so far in the comedic part, going, "Ha, look at these old guys! Isn't it funny?" Where and the counterpoint to this would be like the Expendables franchise. We got all these old 80s and 90s action stars, showing up. You got Jet Li, Stallone, like Bruce Willis showing up in a movie like, oh, we're still like 20, 25, 30 years old shooting guns and taking on armies of men, which is so far into over action, it's like ridiculous, where this became a nice balance of those two.
Yeah. And I like that they didn't just play the old thing for laughs.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like it was very much like a realistic, like, yes, if you were still in this profession doing this, then yeah, you would have some issues.
Yeah.
Because it's true, it's like a lot of the times these leading men, action heroes, like Bruce Willis before he was, unfortunately got sick, like they're so old. Like
Mhm.
and not like old and like, oh my gosh, like you are elderly, or and some of them are, but just in terms of like you wouldn't be able to move around the same way. Like even as you get older, like, how your walk, your movements, like what you're able to do, like all of that changes. So it's very strange that even though the human body would change, the scenarios that they're in wouldn't change.
Yeah.
And you're just like, how are you doing this? That's why I liked this movie where it's just like they're not going to be able to really do everything like in this. And the
Yeah.
fact that they were showing like their backs cracking and all these things, like, yes, like realistically, that's what happened if you were there on that age. So I think I like that the fact they pointed it out. They didn't make it too much of a joke because it's like, yes, you already know, like these guys are they're getting there. But like it was realistic and funny.
Mhm.
And it also was like not I feel like even though it was like just a fun movie to watch, I do think that they made some really solid points. Like the nods to like the DA being the one who hired or not, sorry, he was not a prostitute. He was just a man that she met
Yeah.
in the lobby. Um but she's like messing around with this young kid. She's married, has kids, and she's like, I'm tough on crime. And it's like,
Lady,
okay.
that's prostitution you're participating in.
Yeah, he's not a prostitute. He's just a kid, but
Yeah.
like still it's just like you whatever morals that you're like putting out there as like this is your platform. And it's like well, you're a hypocrite.
Yeah.
So like I just felt like those subtle things of like we're not being overtly political. Like this isn't a serious political movie, but there are some points to be made about it, and I enjoyed that being incorporated with the comedy. I just thought that that was like nice touches.
I like the part I like is like you could see George Clooney's character is like, okay, you're here. I have to work with you. I'm gonna work with you. And Brad's character is like, nah, I'm gonna let you do everything. And it aggravates Bruce Willis's character. And then when they go to their friend who is like the doctor at the Chinese restaurant, Brad like complains about like about George Clooney's character the whole time saying, oh, he's one of those guys who thinks he knows everything. And then she's like, yeah, I know guys like that.
Mhm. Yep. And then they're just like, you know what? We need to work together, which
Yeah.
is true.
Yeah.
Which is like we already knew that that's where it was gonna go. Like they were
Yeah.
just gonna be like buddies.
Hmm.
But yeah, I feel like it's, and I don't even think there was like a difference necessarily in style of like, one's a straight man and then one's the wild card. I just felt like they were both kind of like we're just professionals at our jobs and no one, it was just like an egotistical kind of thing
Yeah.
rather than like different styles
I'm
of how to approach it.
I'm used to working alone. I can't work it. It's another person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
hmm but yeah, I think that in terms of just like technically everything looked really good and it was just like I think the dialogue was great.
Mhm.
Austin scene where he's like explaining like what happened and like how he got
Mhm.
involved in this mess like was so good. I am so happy he's in this movie. I remember when like the set photos came up of this, I think it was sometime last year, and I saw
Mhm.
him that he was going to be working with Brad Pitt and George Clooney. I was like so happy because
Mhm.
I just think he's a really good actor. Like I didn't really even watch Euphoria, but I've seen his other stuff. So like like I can tell like he's just really good at what he does. But he's like underrated very much. Like
Yeah.
he's not like one of those young guys who you're gonna see in like in like everything. But hopefully now that he's been in this, like he can be more things. Because even in that one moment where he's giving his like speech, it was so like one, it was like just hilarious because it's like, dude, you're being taken advantage of. But also um he does a New York accent. He's really going for it. Like he really ate that scene. And I feel like all the little moments that he was in was just so good. Cause like the whole time I was thinking, well, he's gonna die. Like this
Yeah.
kid is gonna be dead. He's presumed dead at the beginning of the movie. And the fact that this man has lived and like would not die is actually funny in itself. Like it is kind of like, oh, you think this kid is out, and he ends up being the one who is still surviving somehow. But yeah, I thought that he was really good in it, and I hope that he gets a lot more opportunities because I think he's really talented.
Yeah. From top to bottom, like this movie also is like very tight. Like
Yes.
I don't mean tight as in oh visually like oh that's tight, that's cool,
Nope.
but like everything
Pacing.
pacing was really tight. It didn't drag on. Like every scene was engaging whether there's action happening or not, whether it's that chasing running through New York and through bridges with him in his underwear, whether it's the shootout with the Albanians in the end, where it's the tension at the wedding where they're trying to make sure that the guy they used to work for separately does not recognize them. They end up fighting each other. Like their whole banter between the two of them when they're trying to figure out what to do at the hotel room, or even um the in the hotel room with the boy where he's telling his story. Like every scene was like tight. It didn't feel like there was a lot of fluff. It feel like it was just that moment and it worked. It's like I think I remember David Lynch complaining about producers saying things need to be shorter. And as a director, you kind of director or writer or any kind of creative, you don't really want to be controlled with the length of time your project takes because you kind of know internally this feels right. But it felt like every single moment in this movie, that John Watts is like, oh, this feels perfect at this pace, and it came across that way in the screen.
Yeah, 100%. I felt the exact same way. I was like, thank God this movie isn't over 2 hours. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know what is going on right now in film. It's like everyone's like, this movie has to be over 2 hours. It has to be 2 hours and 30. It's like, It really doesn't. Like, it
Mm,
really does. I promise you, your movie doesn't need to be this long. And I really appreciated that we had an
mm,
action-packed movie with big stars, good script that was an hour and 42 minutes. Like, that's all you need. Like, you really don't need to do a whole bunch of extra stuff. Like, I just don't like some movies do require it. Like, you just
yeah,
need more time.
yeah,
But having especially one of these bigger blockbustery type movies where it's like, why are we here for over 2 hours? Like,
yeah,
it does not make any sense.
yeah.
And I just really appreciate that this is a bigger budget movie, but like, I don't know, it didn't feel like it had that like,
Big budget feel.
yeah, or the
Yeah,
Marvel vacation of a movie that you'll see in these bigger blockbusters. Not all of them, but in some of them recently, it has felt very much like, okay, like, why are we here? Or we're seeing the same things over again, or people are just talking, nothing's really happening. And the dialogue isn't compelling either. So I just felt like this movie was great because it gets straight to the point. You're having a good time. You don't even notice the time that's passing. Like,
yeah,
I think John Watts, I know he did Spider-Man. I enjoyed this a
yeah,
lot. Like, I don't know how other people feel about it, but I thought this was great.
yeah. Like this was like a short, like it had a short campaign, a short theatrical release and everything, even though it appeared at Venice. I'm
Yeah.
like, but this movie also, they said they spent a budget between 80 million and 200 million. I'm leaning more toward like the 100 to 80 million, based on you're paying John Watts, paying Clooney, you're paying Pitt, and you're shooting in New York, which those permits just shooting in New York take a lot. Even though you're not showing Frances McDormand, her voice is featured in the movie. She's
I didn't
still
know
one
she was in that.
she's still gonna want like a slice of the pie, you know what I'm saying? So I think majority of the budget probably went to just location,
Hmm.
but it doesn't feel like a movie that was over bloated like with budget, which like another movie we're gonna talk about later in the podcast. Like this felt like it had like a very mid-budget vibe
Yeah,
to
that's
it.
what I thought it was.
Yeah. So and apparently is doing good with the reviews. Even though it's on Apple TV, and Apple TV kind of limits people's viewing opportunities, but like they're even discussing a sequel to this movie, with both Brad and George Clooney returning and John Watts. But so I might have spoiled the ending, for people because now that we know that there's a sequel, they survived that shootout. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's a gap in a field that's really missing from the film landscape. It's
Yeah,
like I said, it has that mid budget feel. It probably wasn't a mid budget movie, but that mid
but
budget
it
feel
felt
for
like it.
movies is
Yeah.
is something that's really missing.
Yeah, I agree. And I was like, we need more movies like this, like where it's just like it's not a sequel, it's not a prequel, it's not attached to any franchise. It's just a movie
Yeah,
with people like doing cool things. Like, I think that's all you really need. I mean, you need the other stuff sometimes too, but like I just feel like there's been a lot of that and very few of this. So
hmm,
I hope we get more of these movies.
yeah,
Okay. So we are going to be talking about Francis Ford Coppola's Megalopolis. I'll never say it right, and I don't care at this
don't
point.
care, don't care.
Megalopolis. Is that right?
I don't even care anymore. I don't.
Okay, well, so Dale saw this movie last year, right? He saw it before it was out. Now that it's out, and even before it came out, the run up to, there has been a lot of discussion about this movie. Dale watched it again. I watched like 27 minutes because I was like, no. But I did see some of it. So we're gonna discuss that now, not only the film, but everything that has surrounded the film, criticism, courtroom cases, allegations. We're just gonna get into all of that. So Dale, now that you've seen it fully completed,
Mhm.
has your thoughts changed since you watched it the first time, or has it remained the same?
It's remained the same. A lot of stuff that I saw back when I saw it, like I think was it April 2023 or 20, yeah, about April 2023. Um, a lot of it has stayed the same. Very much has changed. Well, no, I saw it. I think I saw it June 2023. But yeah, a lot of it, nothing really has changed that much in the movie. As far as visually, like a lot of the temp music is gone. Like the first club that the club scene that movie opens up, I think originally was Cardi B as a placeholder track. That's not there anymore. But for most part, the visuals were there. Like, think if I remember correctly, the only scenes that are changed from the version I saw, from the screening, was the when the movie mentions later on about satellite falling. In the movie back then, we saw the actual satellite fall into the city they're in and create a whole catastrophe, whatever. And that's part of what creates the ending of both like Caesar and Catalina, Giancarlo Esposito and Adam Driver's character uniting, that catalyst. But yeah, for the most part, that's it. I mean, in that um satellite dropping, that's how you see Dustin Hoffman's character die. He doesn't kind of die off screen. You see him in his mansion and the shockwaves and shit kill him. But for the most part, the movie's one for one exactly what I saw. I think removing those scenes and replacing some stuff like a lot of the stuff where they show TV, reference a lot of MTV news, stuff like that. Like the visuals are very much the same. I think the theatrical version that's out now is probably about 30 minutes shorter than the one I saw. Like 30 to 45 minutes shorter than what I saw. So yeah.
Okay, so good, bad, somewhere in between.
Oh, it's still the same shit.
Yeah.
Like same batch. Like the thing with this movie is visually, it's and conceptually, it's stunning. Like, but you can still see like the CGI looks. Somebody online who finally saw the movie described it as like watching those old Spy Kids movies, like when it went 3D. That's
Not
and like
surprised.
Shark Boy, like that's what the visual effects give the vibe off. And I was like, that's exactly what it felt like when I saw it, like with a lot of previs stuff. And it's sad to see that the transition from previs to final fizz really did not change that much. There are a couple different editing differences. Like I think now he's using more. This movie has a lot more non-linear cuts in it. Non-linear for people means you're being shown clips that either happened before or have going to happen after, like in a conversation and a scene, and it just cuts back and forth differently. It's kind of jarring and off-putting, but there are a lot more in that now. Um, but yeah, this movie is still not good. I mean, the only thing I would say that's good now is a lot of the stuff post. Um, there are a lot of like the movie's about the fall of an empire. Let's just be honest. But the delivery of it is really poor and convoluted. You really don't get that vibe until near the end, where um one of Francis Ford Coppola's favorite actors who was canceled and he doesn't want to make a woke movie. Shia LaBeouf is on a very Trumpian style path, even to the point where it says there's somebody holding a sign that says "Make New Rome Great Again." Very much on the nose. And for somebody who said he didn't want to make a woke movie, you're rarely influenced a lot by what happened during the Trump presidency and post because it's in your movie. Like you can't say it's not woke when you're making a movie that about the fall of an empire and stuff like that. So
Okay. Um, yeah, I heard what I wanted to do. My original plan was to just listen to a couple of the creators who I like trust their opinion about films to see what they had to say about this movie. And what's been surprising is that like there have been a lot of people who have been like, this movie's great.
yeah,
Like this movie is wonderful because Francis Ford Coppola did this no holds bar. This was his passion project. Like it's an original idea. He spent all this money. He has all of these great actors. Like this is like the cinematography is fantastic and visually it's like a spectacle and whatever. So like this movie is amazing. And I was like, "Oh,
yeah,
that was not what I was expecting to hear at all,
yeah,
actually." Like I thought it was just people were just gonna pan it. But for the most part, like, well, not the most part. It is very split. Like, it's very
Yeah,
divisive, which again was not expecting. Like, I didn't realize that the hold that Francis Ford Coppola has on cinema lovers, cinema goers, film bros, film girlies. Like I wasn't aware.
yeah,
Like I understand that he's a very important filmmaker and he's made some really great films. I just was unaware of like what that meant when he made a film that wasn't up to the usual standards of how he
yeah,
makes movies. Um that impact is still very much there. And so it kind of feels like no matter what he made or no matter what he will make, if he chooses to continue making movies, there's always going to be like a cult of people who are just going to ride for it no matter what.
yeah,
So that was interesting to just see that play out just like in real time. But I think what they were saying was basically just like some of the okay, there were creators that I watched. They were just like, you know what? Is it a great movie? No.
mhm,
But is it cool that this movie exists? Yes.
yeah,
And I don't know if I agree with that.
yeah,
I feel like I feel very much like, yeah, sure, we should all do what we are passionate about. And I guess if you're a director of that caliber and you don't have the studio system restrictions or whatever on you and you can just make whatever you want, sure, you can make whatever you want. Now, should you make whatever you want? I don't know. I don't know if I think my issue is like, I feel like we give passes to these great filmmakers to just do whatever they want.
yeah,
And then when you hear all the stuff that happens during the making of these movies, it's like, I don't think we should be giving these people passes. Like, I don't think that, like, when you listen to like what happened to some of the actors on The Shining, it's like we're putting people through all that just for a movie. That doesn't make any sense to me. I just feel like you can do good work and not make everyone's lives so weird. Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like as an actor, you should come to set knowing what you're going to do.
yeah,
Improvisation and stuff is great, but like the director should at least know what's going to happen. And you're going to tell me that he's been sitting in his trailer smoking weed, not having a plan, wasting everyone's time, wasting his own money just to not come to work every day, not knowing what you're going to do. No, to me that's unacceptable. Like if I was an actor, I don't care who you are, like don't waste my time like that. These actors are great actors. They can go somewhere else and do someone else's movie. Like it just feels like we're lauding this man because of his great filmmaking abilities without thinking about like what that actually means like in reality, like how what that actually meant for the people who are working on the movie. And also just like there are so many great independent films that don't get financed the way that they should or marketed the way that they should.
mm,
And because it's Francis Ford Coppola, like he can just make whatever and y'all are going to eat it up. Like it's just really, I don't like that sentiment. I just don't think that that makes sense.
yeah. There is like, and I get it too. I'm in the part of, oh, I'm happy at opportunity to have an attempt at this movie, but this movie has been in works for decades, decades, decades. Like I think he came up with this or had the idea for this post Godfather. So it's like from the almost like late 70s, 80s that this movie's been in his mind. And there comes to a point as a creative you realize, oh, this movie is legitimately not possible. Like there's plenty of stuff I've written I've gone back and I'm like, yo, what the hell is this? Like at the time, I'm like, oh, it's the best thing in the world. Nobody fucking with me. Nobody touching with me. It's the greatest thing anymore. It's shit on everybody else. Like there's a certain point you have to take ego out of the equation and look at your work. Like, is it good? Like there are plenty of other people also attached to this movie before. I think I don't want to get strong, but I think
Leonardo DiCaprio
Leo,
was
yeah, Leo was
attached.
attached. I think at one point Nicole Kidman was attached to this. Like fucking
Hmm.
Oscar Isaac was attached to this at one point. You know, a lot of people were attached to it and dropped out. And I look at Adam Driver's cinematography, like filmography, and he has been attached to a lot of projects with a lot of high profile directors, but the results have not been good. It's like, oh, I'm a good actor, and like I got Coppola wanted to work with me. Like you have good directors wanting to work with you, but their projects are not the best because, and that's not a knock on oldness, but they're also past their prime as far as, you know, being the visionary men they once were. They're still upholding to the vision they had back then, were at their peak, which media sensibilities and viewing expectations don't meet. Sometimes it hits. Like no one cannot say Spielberg is not still hitting on all cylinders anymore. You can't deny
Scorsese is still
Scorsese's
hitting,
still
like,
sitting on all
so it's
cylinders.
not, I don't know if it's
So
age. It might just be delusion. Like,
it
I don't.
might, yeah, in this case it's delusion. Um, so and like when I saw this movie like last year, and like I'm in the same theater as like Francis Ford Coppola, and I'm there tweaking like I am hype. I'm texting people like, "Yo, I'm at this Ford Coppola screening. This shit ain't coming out till next year. That y'all should have came with me." And I'm sitting there like I'm like in the aisle. I see this dude. I'm like fanboying like no other. And then I watched the movie, and I'm like so disappointed.
Yeah.
Because like you see, oh, this is a visionary director, one of your favorite directors of all time, a Hollywood legend icon, and what you get on screen is disappointing. It reminds me very much as an adult looking back and watching the original Star Wars, like the Star Wars sequel movies by Lucas, and it's Lucas was also doing what he wanted to do, but like the level of detail and care and tightness, to use that word once again, that I saw in like the from New Hope to Return of the Jedi and all those three movies was not there in
Mm.
this one. Like he was really CGI heavy, green screen heavy, and all that physical presence that helped sell a movie was not in there for me, and it lost something watching it. Even as a kid, I kind of knew something was off, but shit looked cool. But now as an adult, I can recognize what I felt back then. So yeah, it's tough to reconcile with accepting, oh, this director isn't that director anymore. So,
Yeah. So there has been a lot of drama that surrounded this movie. First of all, I think it went out on what, $120 million in terms of budget, and it
mhm,
only cleared $4 million in its domestic debut. So he will not be seeing favorable returns on that. But beyond what it made in the box office, the director has filed a lawsuit against Variety because they published a story saying that he was kissing extras on the set and touching them inappropriately. There was no sexual harassment department. There was an intimacy coordinator. All this is alleged by Variety. And Francis Ford Coppola filed another filed a lawsuit against them saying that all the actors had to sign an NDA, so they should have known that the sources that they were getting for their article was um just fake, and like it wasn't well sourced, and they shouldn't have written it. How dare they write this this story about whatever he was alleged to be doing on set that was inappropriate. Um, so the Variety said, while we will not comment on active litigation, we stand by our reporters. So, and this is what I mean. Like this man, he I think was very proud about the fact that he was hiring people who had been canceled, like Shia LaBeouf and like Dennis Hoffman and John Voight. And like I find it weird that he was so interested and proud to incorporate those actors specifically.
hmm,
And then all of this happens. So it's just like, is it birds of a feather flock together? Like it's giving the same energy of just like, well, we are good at our job, so we can just do whatever we want. Like,
hmm,
no, not in this society, not right now. Maybe back in the day, back in the 70s when you were making Apocalypse Now and whatever, you could do whatever you want. I don't know, but like we're not there anymore, sir. So stop touching people that you shouldn't be touching. Like I'm allegedly. So it's gross. And if he doesn't see returns on this movie, because he probably won't,
mhm.
like that's what you get. I don't know, karma. Isn't it something?
Yeah. So, the New York Times, like they have interview with Aubrey Plaza between the release of this and of course Agatha All Along to rave reviews
Mhm.
as well. And they asked her about that whole situation. And what they said is um when asked about the allegation, Plaza said, I wasn't on set that day, so I don't know what went down that day. But she admitted that the production wasn't for the faint of heart and that Coppola would prioritize spontaneity in directing a cast full of strong categories who were leads in other movies before. She said it was madness working on the film. Her mentality every day was every man for herself, only the strong survive here. Um, and they went on to say any scene felt up for grabs since Coppola was liable to tell her that the next take you're a spider, as he was thought it got an idea from a barista. And he said there are days where I'd go to set thinking we're about to start shooting, and it said he'd go, I'd like to play a game and cut production. But she did also go on to say she felt inspired by his unconventional approach because if she knew she couldn't adapt to the constantly shifting material, she was in danger of no longer being on scene and a lot of her scenes being cut. So she said between takes she tried to stay in character. Um and so yeah, I mean, and she said the actors who were willing to improvise ultimately proved the most adept at navigating the production. And if you weren't, you would be getting eaten alive. You had to be confident to have a plan because it's not all on the page, which is very obvious. Like her saying nothing was on the page, and actors had to adapt. Because watching this movie, the lines are given and the performance of these actors is just like, oh, I'm given a vague description of what I'm supposed to be doing. Let me pretend like the clip going on right now is between Adam Driver and dang the chick from Game of Thrones. I don't know why I cannot say her.
Natalie Emmanuel.
Nanny Emmanuel. Like of them her going, excuse me, him saying yes, excuse me, yes, and him saying, go off into the club. Like that was majority of the whole movie. And I think the only parts were scripted is when they literally would pull whole text from like Shakespeare and Hamlet and they'd go back and forth on that. Like I can clearly say those are probably the only parts of the movies that felt scripted to me. Everything else just felt like really odd and incoherent, and it's just actors reacting to what other actors are saying to try and be in line with what is supposed to happen in the scene. So
Yeah. Honestly, Aubrey's answer is giving very much like when Jennifer Lawrence was talking about her experience of working on American Hustle.
yeah,
Because on that movie, like Amy Adams has come out and talked about how terrible that shooting
process.
experience was with David O. Russell and how like she was crying and stuff. And Jennifer Lawrence's answer to that was like, well, he's just tough and like if you're tough, you can kind of get through it. It's like I don't I don't know. I don't understand. This is the thing that I've come to realize. People who are in the public eye and who have been in the public eye for a long time are not normal people. Like the way that their brain functions is just not normal. So things that are obvious to you, like it won't be obvious to them. If someone saying, "Hey, like I was sexually harassed on this movie," and your response to that was, "Well, it was every man for himself," what are you talking about? Like, sure, you weren't there on set when it happened, so like you can't speak to that incident, but I don't know, as a woman and as a human being, you should at least be like, yeah, if someone said that that was their experience, that's pretty messed up and like that shouldn't have happened. I didn't hear that anywhere in the answer that you were reading off from the New York Times.
Yeah,
So it was just like people should not be reduced to tears while they're working. Like that is not a good working environment. And that just goes back to my whole spiel that I made earlier. It's just like, you cannot give excuses to these powerful men. Like, first of all, they don't even care about you. So, like, why? We don't need to be backing them at all, actually. And second of all, like, why would you want to work in an environment like that? Because it's him? Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me. I can't, like, I truly cannot understand it. And I'm trying to understand it. Like, I'm trying to get, like, okay, like if I was cast in a movie and Steven Spielberg or David Fincher or whoever was just like horrible to me, would I just be like, well, I just got to get tough enough. If I get tough enough, then I'll be able to like deal with it. And everyone who isn't able to deal with this, they're just not tough enough. They just need to get it together. No, I would be like, you know what? Y'all are some weird white men. Like, I'm leaving the set and you will hire someone else and then that'll be fine. But like, I'm not going to have my peace disturbed by you guys or my professionalism put in question because yes, these actors, they're not like the main cast, but like you need background actors to make your movies.
Yeah.
You absolutely do. So like, why are you treating them differently than you're treating these other actors? The fact that like even in her response, the fact that she's saying that like, well, if I didn't adapt to what he wanted, my scenes will get cut. Like, are like, do you not hear the why that doesn't like the
Yeah.
contradiction there? Like, that's just crazy.
That's
Like, that's
no
actually crazy.
that's an abuse of power right there.
That's an
And
abuse of power
yeah.
right there. Like, Aubrey, like, honey, what is going on?
Yeah.
And the little bit of the movie that I did watch, and I watched that scene when he was talking about being in the club, like why for me it was just giving this old crusty man wants to watch like beautiful young women not wearing much clothes making out with each other, like it's just giving male gross gaze, like it's
Yeah.
just gross. like I and like and I feel bad because I just feel like these actors, not like Adam Driver in them because like he's gonna be fine, like who cares, but like for Natalie Emmanuel, who like this is the first big thing she's really done since Game of Thrones, like
As a lead actress.
as a lead actress, and people are like panning her performance. They're like, well, she wasn't good in it, and like everyone else knew the assignment. Everyone else knew to be wacky and weird, and she just played it straight. It's like these actors weren't. I don't even know if they were given like a script necessarily. I feel like they were giving concepts of an idea.
Yeah.
You want to talk about concepts? Like I feel like they were given concepts.
Yeah.
Like don't come for her just because she didn't understand this man and how he chose to work that day. Like it just makes me angry. Like I'm just so upset because I just feel like there are actors who are really good in this and not the canceled actors who are just a hot mess and their buddy was like, well, I think that you're okay and I think that you're fine. You probably didn't do what they said that you did, so be in my movie.
Yeah.
Not them. I'm talking about Aubrey Plaza and Natalie Emmanuel and Chloe Fineman, like people who Aubrey is like an established actress, but like these other girls who are just like this is their first like real big thing in terms of like the critically acclaimed stuff,
Yeah.
and they're working with this man.
Yeah.
It's
And
just so unfair.
and and like with like this movie is camp, but camp. This movie, like somebody's like, "Oh, you don't get this movie because it's supposed to be camp." This movie is not camp. This movie
It's not camp.
is
It's
really
not.
poorly done. And Aubrey Plaza, I think, is in a place where she's still, even though she's doing more serious and dramatic roles, she's still known as a comedic actor. So guess what? If her performance is not good, people are gonna say, "Oh, it's her first time doing a serious movie," and they'll be fine with it. So she can get a pass.
Hmm.
But like a lot of the stuff, like Francis saying, "Oh, we're gonna scrap shooting. I have this random idea," and like how she's talking about, "Oh, I wasn't there. I don't know the interactions of people on set background or that day." It gives me very much like Shelley Duvall pops to my mind. Like we talk about now how Stanley Kubrick like 127 takes to do that. Like that's
Hmm.
ridiculous. And even Jack Nicholas went on to say like, "Oh, when he was with Kubrick, seemed like he was dealing with a different director compared to Shelley Duvall. It hurt when they were on set together. It's that kind of situation.
Hmm.
And that's all that situation is also probably why we have all these intimacy coordinators, all this stuff on set to, keep that balance of power on set. Like the boys had an episode where this one of the scummy director and like Vought was like berating a PA. And Ryan and
Hmm.
Homelander, they intervene. That happens a lot on set, and that's why these positions were created, to avoid those abuses of power that some directors, producers, and other co-stars go on with ego trips.
Yeah, and it's just I don't. I'm glad that we're in a space where we can at least call these things out. Unfortunately, I don't know if they're going to change all that much. I don't feel like they're going to change if we're just going to keep giving these men excuses of like, well, they're geniuses, so what are we supposed to do? Like, say something? Yes.
Yeah,
Like, again, I just can't. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure this one out. Like, it's just not making sense to me.
yeah, it's not. So
Oh, that pissed me off.
look, he's not like honestly, he invested what 150, 120 million of his own money into this project.
Mhm,
Um, let's be honest, he's not going to make that back. It's only made a budget, like I said, of about 4 million.
mhm.
Um, yeah, it's not. He sold like his whole winery, and wineries make a lot of money. Like every celebrity, every actor has their own tequila or whatever. So it's a money making thing. But yeah, I don't think this was a really good move. So
No, and I guess it'll continue to be split. It'll be interesting to see, like, when it comes time for, like, Oscars and stuff, if it'll be included. I really hope it won't be, just because, like, come on, like, I feel like we could all agree, like, this movie is not good. I mean, I know people are gonna say that it's good because it's a passion project from a legendary director.
yeah,
So I feel like just on that basis, people might give it, like a pass, or be very, or grade on a curve, be very generous with the film. Because maybe there were ideas that seemed good. Like there were certain things that seemed like okay. But to me, this was like a weird, like a low grade, like Baz Luhrmann, like version of some type of Greek tragedy. Like it feels like that's what this movie
yeah.
is.
It's
Um,
it you hit it like yeah, it's very much visually like Baz, but
where things
it
are just
does
happening.
things are just happening. But with with Baz, it works. It still feels coherent and cohesive. With this movie, I
Yeah.
didn't get that feeling at all.
Yeah, no, it's
Um,
not it's not Baz Luhrmann. It
yeah,
just feels like
yeah,
some type of weird version of that. Like it honestly feels like a film student got like millions of dollars from their dad to
yeah,
like make a movie about like how we live in a society. Like it kind of feels like it's in that vein. And it's not camp, because if it was camp, then we would be laughing and having a good time with
yeah.
it. That's not what happened here. So yeah, I feel like people are always gonna when we did our video about this months ago and put it up there, people were like, "Well, you don't understand cinema because you like Marvel," and it's
I
like,
don't
or the
like
movie,
Marvel. Like,
or first of all, not true.
like
Like,
how often
first
have
of
I said
all,
I'm tired of Marvel movies?
you're factually inaccurate because we've talked about how Marvel has flopped so badly for years, actually, since we've made this podcast for
Yeah,
years.
like our first movie reviewed was a Marvel movie. Like,
It was.
yeah, so
Um,
yeah,
and second of all, maybe the movie's just bad.
yeah.
Like,
Like,
maybe that. Consider that.
I love auteur directors and directors being a chance to create their vision, but that vision also has to be guided with a sense of realism. Like
Yeah.
you cannot give anybody like every creative wishes they had unrestricted freedom and creativity, but you give a creative any that kind of creative, it's chaotic.
Hmm.
And so you also need somebody involved with your productions to at least keep you evenly keeled and focused on the other stuff that help make a movie work. And this being self-funded, like once again, Coppola had zero people telling him what he couldn't or could do. So
Yeah, so not great. I want to not think about this movie ever again.
look, when award season comes up, some try-hard film dude who's like, "Oh, you guys don't understand cinema." They're gonna complain about this movie not being awarded for anything, and they're gonna go, "Oh, he's one of our greatest workers of all times." Movie's not is not meritable in any way, shape, or form for any of the categories in the Oscars. Not for directing, not for like CG and VFX, not for acting, not for writing, like maybe costuming, maybe, but them outfits was basic as hell. Like them dresses they had Natalie in didn't look like no fancy like multi-million dollar dresses or whatever, anything like that. So no, the score, the only like original song was the one from the damn Coliseum, but that shit was kind of booty anyway. Like there's nothing in this movie where I can say, oh, I can see it going for that being an Oscar. Again, I know some try-hard film person is gonna be pissed off when it gets no kind of categories at all.
Yeah. So there it is, our long-awaited Megalopolis review.
Megaflopolis.
Megalopolis. Yes, there we go. We did it. Okay. Um, real quickly, did we watch anything?
Actually, I had a wonderful palate cleanser after watching this. I watched Transformers 1.
Ah,
Wonderfully made movie. Like, I was surprised with oh dang, what's his Thor? Dang, last
Chris
name Chris
Hemsworth.
Hemsworth. Chris Hemsworth and Brian Tyree Henry. Their voice acting, like Brian Tyree Henry is actually doing a lot more voice acting, a lot of animated features now. Um, Chris Hansen, whatever, Hemsworth, still sounds like Chris Hemsworth a bit. At the end, he tries to put on the Peter Cullen gruff Optimus voice, but doesn't hit the same. But it's still a wonderfully well done, made, written love letter movie to people who are fans of Transformers and lore of that world. The only downside is the fact that the movie was horribly promoted by Hasbro, and I forgot which production company put it together. But yeah, the marketing for it is sparse. I mean, it's kind of made back its budget now, but it could have been a lot better had the priority been done for better marketing of the movie. But yeah, which is disappointing. So
And I just watched the most recent episode of The Penguin. And yeah, I'm still really enjoying it. It's really good. And yeah, Colin Farrell. Colin Farrell will win an Emmy. That's my
oh
2025
yeah, most
prediction.
definitely. Whatever. Yeah,
He's killing it.
yeah.
Like he is killing it. Like that's my prediction. Let's see if it happens. Emmy 2025. Listen to what I'm saying and agree with me. But yeah, so that's good. And I think, yeah, I haven't really been watching anything else that's been new. But yeah, that is it from us this week. We hope that you all are taking care of yourselves and doing well. Make sure to check out all of our social media, support us if you can, and we will see you guys in the next episode. Goodbye.
Au revoir.